The massive alien ship appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning, casting a shadow over the United Nations building in New York. Its smooth silver surface reflected the sunlight like a mirror, making it impossible to look at directly. Within hours, every television channel, radio station, and internet feed carried the same message. We come representing the Galactic Council. Prepare your diplomatic delegation. Ambassador James Reed straightened his tie as he looked out the window of the shuttle taking him and his team to the Council's space station. At 55, he had spent his entire career handling difficult diplomatic situations, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The Earth's first contact team consisted of himself, 3 other diplomats, and 2 military advisors, a small group chosen to represent humanity's interests. Approaching docking bay, announced their alien pilot, speaking perfect English through what Reed assumed was some kind of translator. The shuttle glided smoothly into an enormous hangar that could have housed several aircraft carriers. Reed's first impression of the Galactic Council chamber was its sheer scale. The circular room rose hundreds of feet high, with tier upon tier of seats occupied by beings of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human, while others defied description. The human delegation seemed tiny in comparison, standing on a platform that floated to the center of the chamber. The head counselor, a tall being with silvery skin and 4 arms, spoke first. "Welcome, representatives of Earth. We have watched your species for some time, and we believe you are ready to join our great alliance of civilizations." Reed nodded respectfully, but something in the counselor's tone made him uneasy. He had heard similar words before, from powerful nations addressing smaller ones. It wasn't the tone of equals greeting equals. "We are honored," Reed replied carefully. "Earth looks forward to peaceful interaction with the galactic community." "Excellent," the head counselor's voice boomed through the chamber. "We have prepared the integration requirements. Your planet will be assigned a development category, and resource extraction quotas will be established. You will receive technology in exchange for raw materials. Your military forces will be limited to internal peacekeeping only." Reed felt his blood run cold. Behind him, Colonel Adams, one of the military advisors, shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't an invitation to join an alliance. It was a thinly veiled colonization attempt. "Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding," Reed said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Earth is not seeking to become a protectorate. We came to discuss mutual cooperation between equals." A murmur ran through the assembled council members. The head counselor's expression changed slightly, showing what might have been surprise or amusement. "You misunderstand, Ambassador Reed. This is not a negotiation. These are the standard terms for all new species joining the Council. We provide protection and advancement. You provide resources and compliance. This is how it has always been." Reed straightened to his full height, though he was still dwarfed by most of the beings around him. "Then I must respectfully decline on behalf of Earth." The chamber fell silent. Complete, utter silence. Even the slight humming of the station's systems seemed to pause. "Decline?" The head counselor's voice had lost its diplomatic smoothness. "In 10,000 years, no species has ever declined council membership." "Then we are honored to be the first," Reed replied firmly. "Humanity will gladly join the galactic community as equals, sharing knowledge and resources through mutual agreement. But we will not surrender our sovereignty or our right to self-determination." As the human delegation was escorted back to their shuttle, Reed could hear the council chamber erupting in chaos behind them. Colonel Adams leaned close to him and whispered, "You know they won't take no for an answer, sir." Reed nodded grimly. "I know. But humanity didn't come this far by bowing to bullies, no matter how big they are." He looked out at the Earth, beautiful and blue in the distance. "Better to face what's coming on our feet than live forever on our knees." The shuttle departed the station, carrying with it humanity's declaration of independence, and perhaps their declaration of war. 3 days after Ambassador Reed's return from the council station, Marcus Thompson walked into the United Nations emergency session wearing an expression that didn't match his expensive suit. As Earth's leading expert on advanced technology, he had spent the last 15 years preparing humanity for possible alien contact. Now, he was about to reveal a secret that would shake the world's trust in him forever. Distinguished representatives, Thompson began, his voice echoing through the packed chamber. I come before you today, not just as a scientist, but as someone who has been in contact with the Galactic Council for the past 5 years. The room erupted in shocked whispers and angry outbursts. Admiral Kate Stone, newly appointed head of Earth's combined defense forces, reached for her phone immediately. Security teams moved closer to Thompson, but he raised his hands in a calming gesture. I was chosen by them to observe humanity's development and ease our transition into the Council, Thompson continued. They never expected resistance. And now, I must warn you about what comes next. The large screen behind him lit up with images that made several delegates gasp. Worlds reduced to mining operations, once proud civilizations working as servants in Council space stations, entire species relocated to work camps. This is what happens to those who defy the Council, Thompson said grimly. I'm telling you this not because I support their actions, but because you need to understand what we're facing. They've done this 17 times in the past millennium alone. Admiral Stone stood up, her voice cutting through the murmurs. So you're a traitor who's here to convince us to surrender? Thompson shook his head. No, Admiral. I'm here to help you prepare. Because I've seen something in humans that the Council hasn't encountered before. Real unity in the face of threats. Other species fought among themselves when pressured. Humanity. He paused, looking around the room. Humanity gets stronger. Security footage from the Council station appeared on the screen. Ambassador Reed's dignified refusal playing out for all to see. The room fell silent as they watched their representative stand firm against the galaxy's most powerful organization. The Council gave me advanced technology in exchange for my help, Thompson continued. I'm turning everything over to Earth's defense forces. It's not much against their full might, but it's a start. He pulled a small device from his pocket and placed it on the podium. This contains their shield frequencies, communication protocols, and basic ship designs. Admiral Stone's expression remained hard, but her eyes showed interest. Why the change of heart? Because I was wrong, Thompson admitted. I thought submission was the only way to survive. But watching Ambassador Reed stand up to them, I realized that survival without freedom isn't really survival at all. The assembly erupted in discussion. Above the noise, Admiral Stone's voice carried across the chamber, all in favor of implementing the emergency defense protocol. Hands rose across the room, a unanimous vote. Within hours, the world's militaries would begin combining their forces. Scientists would start analyzing Thompson's data, and humanity would prepare for what was coming. Outside the UN building, reporters swarmed around Thompson as he left under heavy guard. What do you think Earth's chances are? One shouted. Thompson stopped and looked up at the sky, where somewhere beyond the blue, Council ships were surely already heading their way. The Council thinks they're facing just another primitive species, he said quietly. They don't understand that humans have something special. We don't know how to give up. And that's going to shock them more than anything else. As Thompson was led away to a secure facility where he would help prepare Earth's defenses, emergency sirens began to sound across New York. The first phase of humanity's greatest challenge had begun. But unlike the 17 species before them, Earth wasn't going to bow down without a fight. Dr. Robert Wells hadn't slept in 3 days. Empty coffee cups littered his lab at the Global Defense Center, where he'd been studying the alien technology that Thompson had provided. His tired eyes stared at the screen showing wave patterns from Council ship communications. Something about them seemed familiar, but his exhausted brain couldn't quite grasp it. Doctor, you need to rest, his assistant said, bringing another coffee. Can't, Wells muttered, taking the cup. Look at this pattern. It's like. His eyes suddenly widened. He spilled the coffee as he jumped up, rushing to another computer. "Get Admiral Stone." Now. 20 minutes later, Admiral Stone stood in the lab with her arms crossed, listening to Wells's excited explanation. Their whole communication system uses quantum frequencies that match their shield harmonics. It's beautiful engineering, but it's also their weakness. If we can disrupt these specific frequencies, he pointed to a series of numbers on the screen. In simple terms, Dr. Stone interrupted. Wells grinned despite his exhaustion. We can't match their technology, but we can give them one hell of a headache. Every ship in their fleet has this same vulnerability. Stone nodded slowly. How long to develop weapons that can exploit this? 2 weeks, maybe 3. What? Wells hesitated. We'll still be outnumbered at least 50 to 1. Then we better make every shot count, Stone replied grimly. She pulled out her phone and began issuing orders immediately. Around the world, humanity prepared for war. Underground shelters that had been built during the Cold War were expanded and modernized. New bunkers were dug deep into mountains. Farmers began stockpiling seeds, doctors gathered medical supplies, and engineers converted civilian factories to produce military equipment. In orbit, the combined space forces of Earth, barely 50 ships strong, practiced new tactics developed by Stone's team. The ships were small compared to Council vessels, but they were agile. And now, thanks to Wells' discovery, they had a fighting chance. Each pilot needs to understand. Stone told her commanders during a global briefing, "We're not trying to win a traditional space battle. We're fighting a guerrilla war among the stars. Hit and run. Disrupt their communications. Make them waste resources chasing shadows." The civilian response surprised even the military planners. Instead of panic, people showed a grim determination. Survival skills became the most watched videos online. Children practiced emergency drills at school. Communities organized themselves into support networks. In his secure lab, Wells worked with a global team of scientists, testing the disruption weapons. The first prototypes failed spectacularly. The 5th test cracked the reinforced windows of the lab. But the 10th test worked perfectly, creating a focused beam that could scramble Council quantum communications without harming human technology. Mass production begins tomorrow, Wells told Stone during their daily briefing. But there's something else. He showed her another screen. Their ship's artificial gravity systems use the same quantum frequency. If we boost the disruptor power enough, we could disable their entire fleet, Stone asked. Wells shook his head. Not disable, but we could make life very uncomfortable for them. Try fighting when you don't know which way is up. Stone allowed herself a small smile. Keep working on it. Every advantage helps. As the sun set on another day of preparation, Stone stood at the window of the Global Defense Center. Civilian volunteers were streaming into the building below, bringing food and supplies for the workers who hadn't left in days. Parents carried their children on their shoulders, pointing at the defense ships visible in the sky. "Admiral," her aide interrupted her thoughts, "we're detecting multiple Council ships entering the solar system." Stone took a deep breath. They weren't fully ready, but they'd have to make do. Send the alert. It's time to show them what humanity can do. The warning sirens began to wail across the planet. Humanity's first real test was about to begin. The Council fleet appeared like stars suddenly blinking into existence around Earth's orbit. 300 massive warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built, arranged themselves in a perfect attack formation. Their silver hulls gleamed in the sunlight, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Admiral Stone stood in the command center of the Global Defense Station, watching the tactical display. Earth's 50 ships looked tiny compared to the Council fleet. She took a deep breath and pressed the communication button. "All ships, maintain position. Remember your training. We only get one chance at surprising them." The Council's message broadcast on all frequencies. "This is your final opportunity to surrender. You have 10 minutes to comply." Stone looked at Dr. Wells, who was monitoring the quantum disruption devices. He gave her a thumbs up. "All ships," she commanded, "activate ghost protocols." Using Wells' discovery, Earth's ships disappeared from the Council's sensors. It wasn't true invisibility, but it was enough to confuse their targeting systems. The Council fleet's perfect formation suddenly seemed less confident. "They're launching fighters," reported the tactical officer. "At least 1,000 small craft incoming." Stone nodded grimly. "Execute Operation Hornet's Nest." Earth's ships scattered in practiced patterns. They were small and agile, darting between the massive Council vessels. The quantum disruptors activated, and chaos erupted across the Council fleet. Ship-to-ship communications crashed. Artificial gravity systems fluctuated wildly. Targeting computers showed phantom images everywhere. "First wave, strike now," Stone ordered. 10 Earth ships dove straight at the nearest Council battleship. Their weapons weren't powerful enough to penetrate the alien shields directly, but they didn't need to. The quantum disruption beams hit first, creating temporary gaps in the shields. Conventional missiles followed immediately after, streaking through these gaps. The Council battleship's hull cracked open like an egg. Escape pods shot out in all directions as secondary explosions chained through its structure. The mighty vessel, pride of the Council fleet, began to break apart. But the Council commanders weren't stupid. They adapted quickly, switching to manual targeting and visual coordination. Energy beams lashed out, catching 3 Earth ships. They vanished in balls of fire, their crews having no time to escape. "They're launching a second wave of fighters," Tactical reported. "They're not using quantum guidance systems anymore." Stone had expected this. "Release the drones." Thousands of small, automated drones launched from Earth's surface. They weren't weapons. They were decoys, broadcasting fake signals on all frequencies. The battlefield became even more confused as Council ships tried to distinguish real targets from false ones. The space around Earth turned into a deadly dance. Council ships fired powerful but slow weapons at enemies they couldn't properly track. Earth's smaller vessels struck fast and retreated, their crews fighting against shifting gravity as their own disruptors affected friend and foe alike. "New York is hit," someone shouted. A Council dreadnought had broken through, its weapons scaring the Earth's surface. Stone watched in horror as damage reports came in from cities around the world. "All ships, converge on that dreadnought," she ordered. "We can't let them get another shot." 20 Earth ships swarmed the massive vessel, their disruption beams working in concert. The dreadnought's systems failed catastrophically. It began to drift, its crew floating helplessly inside as artificial gravity failed completely. After 6 hours of intense combat, the Council fleet retreated, leaving behind 12 destroyed ships and 20 disabled ones. But Earth had paid a heavy price. 17 defense ships lost, millions of casualties on the ground, and major cities in ruins. "They'll be back," Wells said quietly, looking at the tactical display showing the retreating Council ships. "And they'll have counters for our tricks." Stone nodded, watching the rescue ships heading toward the damaged cities. "Yes, but now they know something they didn't before." She turned to face her staff. "They know that humanity won't just roll over and die. And sometimes that knowledge is more powerful than any weapon." The first battle was over. Earth had survived. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Lisa Hart studied the holographic map of the captured Council warship hovering above the briefing table. 3 months had passed since the first battle, and humanity had been forced underground. But underground didn't mean defeated. "The ship's quantum core is here," she said, pointing to a glowing spot on the map. "Their security is heaviest around this section, but they have a blind spot here, near the maintenance tunnels." Admiral Stone, joining via secure video link from another bunker, nodded. "Your team will have exactly 20 minutes before they detect the disruption field." "Are you sure about this, Commander?" Hart looked at her small team of volunteers. They had practiced this mission 100 times in virtual reality simulations. "We're sure, Admiral." Dr. Wells's new stealth suits will get us in. The rest is up to us. The mission began at midnight. Hart's team of 6 approached the grounded Council warship in suits that bent light around them, making them almost invisible. They moved silently through the shadow of the massive vessel, using hand signals to communicate. Inside the ship, they encountered their first challenge. 2 alien guards stood before the maintenance access, their 4 eyes scanning the corridor constantly. Hart raised her hand, activating a small device on her wrist. The quantum disruption field created a momentary sense of vertigo in the guards. By the time they recovered, Hart's team had already slipped past them. 15 minutes, whispered her second-in-command through the secure comm line. They moved faster now, climbing through maintenance shafts designed for repair drones. The ship's artificial gravity shifted unexpectedly, nearly sending one team member falling, but Hart caught him just in time. The quantum core chamber was exactly where their intelligence said it would be. Behind its sealed doors, the technology that powered the Council's most advanced systems hummed with energy. 2 team members set up small devices around the door, while Hart prepared the quantum scanner Dr. Wells had designed. 10 minutes, came the warning. The door slid open silently. Inside, streams of light danced between floating crystals, creating patterns that hurt the eyes to look at. Hart moved quickly to the central console, plugging in the quantum scanner. Data began flowing immediately. Multiple contacts approaching warned their lookout. Patrol route changed. Hart's fingers flew over the alien console, using patterns they'd learned from Thompson's intelligence. The scanner was only at 60%, but they were running out of time. 5 minutes. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. The team took defensive positions, weapons ready. Hart watched the scanner's progress. 70%, 80%. The doors slid open. A Council security team stood there, weapons raised. For a moment, both sides froze in surprise. Now, Hart shouted. Her team activated their disruption fields at full power. The Council soldiers stumbled as their equilibrium failed. In the confusion, Hart's team slipped past them. The scanner clutched safely in her hands. 2 minutes. They ran through the corridors, no longer caring about stealth. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Hart's lungs burned as they sprinted toward their exit point. Hangar bay doors closing. Someone shouted. Hart pulled out their last surprise. A Council override code Thompson had discovered. The doors froze, then slowly opened again. They jumped from the ship's maintenance hatch just as security forces reached them. Landing hard on the ground below, they scattered into pre-planned escape routes as confusion erupted above them. Hours later, in the safety of the underground base, Hart handed the quantum scanner to Dr. Wells. His eyes widened as he reviewed the data. "This is it," he whispered. "Their core technology. With this, we can not only disrupt their systems, we can replicate them." Hart finished. Stone's voice came over the comm system. "Good work, Commander. But our spies report the Council is calling in their elite fleet. We need to work fast." Hart looked at the tired faces of her team, seeing not exhaustion but determination. "Then we better get started. Earth's waited long enough to take the fight to them." The next phase of humanity's resistance was about to begin, and this time, they would have more than just courage on their side. Dr. Wells stood in the crowded command center, watching as the massive Council elite fleet emerged from hyperspace. 100 of their most powerful warships, led by the legendary dreadnought Starbreaker, took up attack positions around Earth. "All stations report ready," Admiral Stone announced, her voice steady, despite the overwhelming odds they faced. "Dr. Wells, is the new system online?" Wells nodded, checking the readings one last time. "The quantum mirror system is functioning perfectly. Commander Hart's stolen data let us replicate their core technology, but with a crucial difference. On screens around the room, Earth's remaining 40 ships moved into defensive positions. Each one now carried Wells's new invention, a system that could not only disrupt Council technology, but temporarily disable it completely without destroying their ships. Remember, Stone broadcasted to all Earth forces, we're not here for revenge. We're here to show them a better way. The Council fleet struck first, their weapons lighting up the space around Earth with deadly energy. But this time, humanity was ready. The quantum mirror systems activated, creating a web of interference that spread through the Council formation. One by one, Council ships began to drift, their systems shutting down safely rather than catastrophically failing. Escape pods and life support remained functional, but weapons and engines went dark. The mighty Starbreaker itself hung motionless in space, its crew helpless but unharmed. "Sir," a young officer called out, "we're receiving transmissions from multiple Council ships. They're asking why we haven't destroyed them." Stone stepped forward, opening a channel to all vessels. "This is Admiral Stone of Earth's Defense Force. We could destroy your ships, but that's not our way. We're offering you a choice, one you never gave others. Stand down and let's talk as equals." The command center fell silent as they waited for a response. Finally, a voice responded, not from the Council fleet, but from an unexpected source. "This is High Judge Archer of the Arbiters," the voice announced. "We have been watching Earth's resistance with great interest. You had every right to destroy these ships after what was done to your cities, yet you chose mercy. The Arbiters stand with Earth." Suddenly, new ships appeared, sleek vessels belonging to the Arbiters, one of the youngest but most respected Council member species. They took up positions alongside Earth's forces. "The Council's old ways must end," the High Judge continued. "Earth has shown us there is strength in compassion, not just in power." More ships began appearing. The Centauri, the Nexus Collective, other younger Council species drawn to Earth's example. Within hours, the balance of power had shifted dramatically. In the Council chamber, where it all began, emergency sessions were called. The older species watched in shock as more and more members supported Earth's call for reform. Back in the command center, Stone received an urgent message from Ambassador Reed, who had been working diplomatic channels tirelessly. "Admiral." Reed's voice was excited. "The Council is fracturing. Over half their member species are demanding changes to the entire system of governance. They're citing Earth's ethical warfare as proof that advanced civilizations don't need to rule through fear." Wells looked at the tactical display, where disabled Council ships were being towed to safe orbits, their crews treated with respect despite months of brutal conflict. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "the strongest weapon isn't the one that destroys your enemy. It's the one that makes them question why they were your enemy in the first place." Stone nodded, watching as more Council ships began powering down voluntarily, their crews choosing to stand with Earth rather than against it. "Send word to all Earth forces," she ordered. "The tide has turned. But remember, in victory, we must be the example the galaxy needs." Humanity had done more than just survive. They had sparked a revolution that would reshape the galaxy, not through superior firepower, but through the power of their principles. The Council chamber looked very different from Ambassador Reed's first visit. Gone were the imposing tiers designed to make new species feel small. Instead, all seats now sat at the same level in a circular arrangement. Reed took his place at the newly installed Earth section, noticing how the older Council species shifted uncomfortably in their new positions. "The emergency session of the reformed Galactic Council is now in session," announced High Judge Archer of the Arbiters, who had been chosen as interim leader during the transition. "We are here to ratify the new Charter of Galactic Rights." Reed looked around the chamber. Admiral Stone and Dr. Wells sat beside him, along with Commander Hart. They had all earned their places in this historic moment. In the public viewing area, Marcus Thompson watched quietly, his earlier betrayal forgiven after his crucial help in the resistance. "The First Order," Archer continued, "is to formally acknowledge Earth's full membership, not as a subject world, but as an equal partner in our galactic community." The vote was nearly unanimous. Only 3 of the oldest Council species abstained, their influence now greatly diminished after hundreds of their colony worlds had declared independence. Next, Archer said, we will review the proposed changes to Council law, inspired by Earth's example during the recent conflict. Dr. Wells stood to present the first proposal. The sharing of technology should be based on mutual benefit, not dominance. Earth offers our quantum mirror system to all members, asking only that it be used for defense, never aggression. The chamber erupted in approving murmurs. The same technology that had helped Earth resist conquest would now help protect younger civilizations from suffering the same threats. Commander Hart presented the military reforms. No species shall be forced to limit their defensive capabilities. However, all members agree to a pact of non-aggression and mutual defense. Admiral Stone followed with the new first contact protocols. Never again will an emerging civilization face demands for submission. The Council will approach new species with respect, offering friendship instead of ultimatums. As the session continued, Reed noticed something remarkable. The younger Council species weren't just agreeing with Earth's proposals, they were building upon them, offering their own ideas for a more equal galaxy. The dream of genuine cooperation was becoming reality. There is one final matter, Archer announced. The Council's historical records. Do we acknowledge the past wrongs done to subjugated species? Reed stood. Earth proposes full disclosure, not for vengeance, but so we learn from history. The 17 species who suffered under the old system should be offered restoration and support. The vote passed. In the viewing area, Thompson nodded in approval, perhaps thinking of his own journey from collaboration to redemption. As the session ended, Reed met with his team in Earth's new Council offices. Through the window, they could see ships from dozens of species moving peacefully through space, including the newly reformed Council fleet, now a peacekeeping force rather than an instrument of conquest. Did you ever think we'd end up here? Hart asked, looking at the scene. Honestly, no, Stone admitted. I thought we'd either die fighting or win through force. I never imagined we'd win by inspiring others to change. Wells smiled, holding up a data pad showing reports from Earth. The planet was recovering, cities being rebuilt with help from other species. That's the thing about humans. We're at our best when we're proving the impossible is possible. Reed looked at the new charter, signed and ratified, ensuring freedom for countless future generations across the galaxy. The Council thought our defiance was shocking, he said, but what really shocked them was discovering that strength doesn't come from forcing others to kneel. It comes from helping them stand. As the Earth team prepared to return home, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Thanks, congratulations, and requests for guidance from species old and new. Humanity had earned their place among the stars not through conquest or submission, but by staying true to their principles. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had fought for.